A man walks along the streets on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, heading toward the intersection of Broad Street and Wall Street. Holding his hand and keeping pace is his 9-year-old grandson. Young Daniel Frischberg is about to get a first-hand look at the New York Stock Exchange. He doesn't realize it yet, but his destiny is to be a major player in the world of finance. What he's learned over nearly 50 years, he'll teach you today, and it's all free of charge. There's a billionaire locked inside you. The key to freedom is information, the kind of information you find here on the Money Man Report. Now, here's the Money Man. Here's Dan Frischberg.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Money Man Report. Thanks very much for joining me. I'm so happy to be doing this again. I really love to do it. I don't know why we even need a vacation, but it freshened me up. And I guess in the long run, we're going to be better for it. So I want to talk to you about this whole idea of investing because we're covering a lot of Wall Street lies. And one of the big lies is the idea that if you follow the patterns and if you watch the patterns, they call it technical analysis. And they have certain ways of watching the direction, and they find support levels and resistance levels. And if this was not an audio, if this wasn't a podcast and I could show you pictures, I can explain them to you and you'll just have to imagine them. It's probably better in the long run for you to think of it this way so you really understand it. What they do is, let's say there's a pattern of a stock, and you've seen it before. You see a chart of the stock and it's got a wavy line and it's going up. Stock's getting more expensive gradually, but it's a wavy line. And really what's happening is every couple of weeks or every month, the stock makes a new high as it's on this uptrend. But really what's happening is you can draw, in many cases, a line under that whole thing. The curves, they hit a bottom, and very often you can just draw a line under them, and they call that the support level. And then you can draw a line along the top, and they call that the resistance level. Now, many of these technical analysts believe that the way to do it would be to watch that pattern, and when it gets down to the bottom of that pattern, when it touches the line, that's a good entry point, and you should buy it then. And then when it gets to the top of the line, that's an exit point, and you should sell it then. Now, you're going to have to imagine this because this is not, I can't show it to you in video. But I had a lesson in my top tier professional training that I used to give to the very best analysts and the one who really want to make it a career and really want to get good at it. And I showed them the same picture with the wavy line moving up as the stock, and let's call it the S&P 500. And you could draw the line along the bottom of it. And you look at that line and the way I had it drawn, and they would say, well, what do you mean this technical analysis doesn't work? Look at how that line shows you exactly where the turning points are. So that would be great because I showed it to them with that line drawn in and arrows pointing to the points at which the stock price came down and touched that line and then went up again. And so they say, what do you mean it doesn't work? Look at how it works. Now, then I made another picture of the same thing, drawing the same line, but then I put arrows in showing the times when it didn't bounce off that line. Either it didn't come down to that line, it didn't get down there, but it turned up before it got to the line, or it went through that line under it. It didn't stop and go up at that point. And there were just as many arrows on the place where it didn't hit that line or went through the line as there were the place where it went. You see what you want to see. And you can set something up for somebody to see something by drawing it that way. The fact is, it works sometimes and it doesn't work sometimes. And if you take the times that you lose and subtract them from the times you win, you come out without doing very well at all. But a much better way, instead of guessing what the herd is going to do, because they're a bunch of people trying to follow each other. And when I was a kid, the mentor, the specialist that was teaching me how to do this on the New York Stock Exchange, who had pointed out to me that this thing's been going up for 150 years, and yet 90% of these people lose money. And you can't even figure out a formula for how to lose money on a deal like this. Why are they doing it? Because instead of knowing what they're investing in investing in a couple of things or a few things that they have studied and know about and understand the values of, instead of doing that, they're just trying to guess what each other are going to do through pattern recognition. And as he pointed out to me when I was 14, if that kind of thing worked, if pattern recognition worked, these guys would know what their wife was going to do. Their wife goes to the mall. They don't know what she's going to do even tomorrow. So the bottom line is people don't follow patterns, really. We're not ants. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we are purposely deceptive. But if I want to know in the long run, where is that line going? Here are the facts. Here's what I know for a fact. If that company keeps selling more and it's doing things that people want and things that they need in order to have the life they want, and if this company is the best one to buy it from, and they're doing it profitably, and they keep getting a bigger and bigger clientele, and they have a patent on what they're doing or special intellectual property that means they're very difficult to compete with, then that company is going to keep being worth more and more money as it sells more and as it makes more profit. And that's going to happen reliably and consistently. It's going to happen all the time. I can tell you this, 100% of the time, when a company consistently makes more money for its owners and becomes more valuable, the stock price eventually reflects it. Not necessarily today or this week or even this month, but when I come back and look at this from year to year, if the company's worth more because it made more money for its owners, the stock price is higher. People are logically going to pay more for a company that's worth more. So if I figure out how much the company is going to be worth in the future by figuring out how much are they going to sell. Now, the bottom line is that instead of trying to figure out a pattern and outsmart people and guess, because, you know, the people you're watching and guessing what they're going to do, they don't know what the hell is going on either. They don't know necessarily anything about that company. If I know how much money it's going to be worth in the future because of how much profit it makes, I can't predict what the stock's going to do this week, this next, or even this month, or maybe even in the next several months. But sooner or later, 100% of the time, that stock price is going to reflect how much money the company's worth. And the company is worth according to how much money it makes for its owners and how fast that's growing, how much that's going up, how much you can expect to be making from it in the future. That's how the world determines what a business is worth, what a house is worth, what any asset is worth that's based on an investment that makes you money. So instead of me chasing around and trying to guess what these people are going to do, imagine that I'm going to give you a metaphor about a herd of cows, because we're talking about a herd here anyway. And instead of me chasing around in the pastures and chasing around in the meadows and trying to catch those cows and get them and herd them back to the barn and having to keep doing that, what if I start giving them good grain food at the barn every day at around 5 o'clock? And then what's happening is once they're trained and know that there's going to be good food for them at the barn, I don't have to chase them around. I just can put the food out and sit there at the barn at 5 o'clock and wait for them to come. And that's really what's happening with these companies. People are investing in them to make money. So instead of me chasing around guessing what the people are going to do in the interim, when it's not clear what's going on, I can just give myself enough time. And if that company is worth more money because it's selling more and making more profit and its prospects have gotten better, then the stock price is going to reflect that. So I can just wait for the herd to come around. I base my buying of that stock or selling it on how much the company's worth based on the profits it earns and is going to earn in the future and how much those are growing, instead of just trying to guess based on their patterns of behavior what people are going to do. So that's how you make money reliably. So we're going to stop for a break here, and we'll be right back with the rest of this podcast. I'm going to give you another Wall Street lie that's stopping you from participating in the greatest opportunity of your life.
Each week in his live video market and economy update offered to his inner circle, Dan Frischberg delivers the in-depth, professional version of his famous Market X-ray report, live and interactive. Now that means you get to ask all the questions you want. And if you can't make the live meeting, you can watch the report on demand. Then email your questions in and Dan will email the answers back or include them in the next live report. Week in and week out, Dan brings you the ideas and specific stock picks from his friends, the people you see on TV and read about in the papers. You'll see what they're buying, how they're hedging, and when they're taking money off the table. At last, you'll get to see how the insiders negotiate the institutional macro bonds that billionaires on Wall Street rely on, the ones almost everyone else never even heard of. When you become an Inner Circle member, Dan will share with you his lifetime of experience and guide you to the best teachers, the best stock pickers, the best option strategists. And you'll be invited to exclusive working vacations in beautiful locations for the Inner Circle only, where you'll rub elbows with some of the most famous investors on Wall Street. So, how do you value the lifetime of skill and experience of a top investor on a mission to share it all with you and help you become one of the few winners? If you've been listening to Dan for a few years, he's likely already made you tons of money, or even more important, saved you from losing a fortune. Now, there are limits to the capacity of the online video sessions, but right now, for a limited time, Dan's offering you the position of charter subscriber, get this, for less than the price of a cup of coffee a day. For all the info or to subscribe, just simply click on themoneyman.com. themoneyman.com.
You're tuned in to the Money Man Report with your host, TV and radio money man, Dan Frischberg. For more information about everything we're talking about, go to themoneyman.com right now. That's themoneyman.com.
And now I'm sitting here in the middle of August of 2021. There is a crisis of confidence, and investors are basically not predictably buying stocks. And so lots and lots of companies are set up to do exactly what people want and need in the world, exactly what they want as they've tried to rebuild their economy. As the economy regrows and people they want to buy more, they want to go more places, and they want to do more things. And people around the world want to recover from COVID, but they also want to rebuild and they want to get electricity in the underdeveloped places. They want all these things that are very predictable. Mostly they're buying a lot of this stuff from us. And so if I know that they're going to be doing that over the next year or two, I'm not worried about whether there's a little bit of a backup and they get this Delta variant that makes them get a little bit more COVID. More and more people are getting immunized. More and more people are getting past COVID. everywhere in the world, certainly in the United States, but in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, everywhere. It's happening slower in the poorer places like Africa. It's happening slower in India, where only maybe 20% of the people are immunized, or 25% of the people. It's happening slower in the Philippines. But all those people, as they get past COVID, they get back to wanting to get electricity. They want to get computers. They want their kids to go to college. They're a little distracted now, but what I'm looking at is I do own companies that help them to live the way they want to live and to get the things they want to get and to buy the things they want to buy. And by studying those companies and seeing which ones do it profitably and which ones are having a growing, rising number of customers, I know what's going to happen over the next year, 2 years, 3 years. I don't have to know what's going to happen this week or this month. The people who are losing confidence and losing money is because they're trying to guess what's going to happen in the next couple of months. It doesn't matter what happens in the next couple of months. So that's the bottom line. It's another lie. And that is that all these experts on television that are coming from the big firms, they pass along this lie. Now, all of the hosts on television have bought into these lies and they believe them too. And then even the college teachers who teach Finance One, they believe all this crap. And the analysts who are really investing these billionaires' money, they aren't really available to you, but your broker, the guy who doesn't really know anything, sits in a cubicle calling strangers all day. That guy believes what he's been told by his firm. And what they've told them is that if you watch the people, you can figure out what they're going to do by extrapolating, and that people are suckers for this technical analysis because they're looking for an easy answer. So you can get them to listen to you by telling them that story. Now, I can tell you for sure that that isn't what Goldman Sachs does with their money. What they do is they study up, they find companies that are doing things that are the best at doing things that people definitely want. And then they help them by taking them public. They help them underwrite. They buy options on those companies when they exist so that they can use a lot of leverage because they do the research and know that this company is eventually going to be worth more money. They know it. So they're not afraid to use a lot of leverage. And they don't really care what your mood is this month. They're not trying to guess what your mood is this month. They're fooling you into thinking that's the name of the game, but it's not. So what's the trick? Pick out a couple of companies that are doing things that people really want. And a perfect example of that is copper and steel. The world is going to rebuild. The world is going to use tons of copper and steel to build new, to build high rises. The United States is going to build all kinds of infrastructure. We're going to rewire our grid. They're going to rewire the grid in India and China. All of this is going to happen. They're going to use tons of copper to do it. And for the electric cars that they want to build and that they want to use, those electric cars use 4 times as much copper as a gasoline-driven car does. The demand for copper is going to be enormous. The break that we're getting, it's tremendous break, is that copper, Freeport McMoran, the copper mining company, their stock's actually going down. And because temporarily, China has been letting a lot of its copper reserves go because they can't stand how fast the price of copper was going up. And so technically, you see that the price of copper, which used to be $2, now it's down to around $4. It was $4.50 a while ago because China is selling off a little bit of their copper. But in order for them to grow, they're going to have to buy it all back. They know it. They're just trying to mitigate the inflation right now. It's irrelevant. And people around you are afraid that the economy is going to slow because South Dakota has more COVID and this Midwestern place has more COVID, California has more COVID. This stuff is all temporary, short-time baloney. Over the next few years, all the things we want to do are going to use more copper. The value of that Freeport-McMoRan stock is going to be much higher than it is today. This sell-off temporarily selling off because people have lost confidence in the short run, instead of extrapolating and saying it's a downtrend, I'm going to bet on it going down. Look at how much money they're going to make. Look at the situation of the people who want to buy the copper, who are going to have to buy the copper to do what they want. And then let's own it and let them buy that copper from us. And over the next several years, we can make a lot of money. Now, that's what Golden Rule investing is about. I have courses that show you the techniques of how to use it, and in particular, how to get the leverage. You know, we made about 30 times our money over the last year by investing in Freeport-McMoRan stock, but by buying long-term options on it, by buying the right to buy that stock. And we were able to buy 10 times as much of that company as we would have with the cash we were putting in. Learning how to do that with companies that are absolutely have growth in the bag, rising profits, learning how to do that will make you a fortune. And if you go to themoneyman.com, you will find how to watch my first free Golden Rule workshop. It's available to you free. You need to know this information. Golden Rule Workshop. It's on themoneyman.com. You can also find it on Facebook. There's also all kinds of places. Go to themoneyman.com. If you don't want to bother, just text me, email me, Dan@themoneyman.com. Just email me. Or when you go to themoneyman.com website, a little chat box opens up. Put your email in there and your name, and we will get you a link so you can watch that free Golden Rule investing workshop. It's not been free for long, and it's not going to be free for long, but it's important to you now, and it is free right now. Find it on themoneyman.com or email me, Dan@themoneyman.com. So that's our podcast for today. Thank you very much. Don't forget to check out themoneyman.com, and we're going to see you on the next podcast in just a couple of days. Don't forget, you can find these podcasts on themoneyman.com. You can also find them on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, but especially they're on themoneyman.com, and the whole archive is there. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the sound of your money growing. This has been the Money Man Report with your host, radio and TV money man, Dan Frischberg. Hear it again every weekday morning here on Bradenton's WWPR, broadcasting worldwide. It's Better Living Radio.